RIMURU Go Back in Time by Rimu-chi. Aftermath and another ONE. Third person POV. In Tempest. The aftermath of the battle with Hinata and the Saints left the air heavy with tension, yet as the group set off toward Tempest, the atmosphere quickly shifted. Hinata had already sent back 100 of her Saints to Ruburios, ensuring that only a select few remained to accompany her. RIMURU, at the center of it all, walked with a bright grin on his face, hands held tightly by his two sisters, Irina on his right and Kumara on his left. Irina, full of energy, hummed an upbeat tune, her voice lively and carefree. Kumara, though much shyer, softly joined in, her grip on RIMURU's hand tightening as if afraid to let go. Behind them, the rest of the group followed, Luminous walking elegantly with her subordinate Roy, while Hinata and her Saints, Leonard, Lytus, Armud, Fritz, Bacchus, and Guard, strode ahead, their eyes flickering between RIMURU and their surroundings. Benimaru, Soe, and the beastmen of Tempest trailed behind, keeping watch over their lord and his unexpected company. Luminous, her eyes glinting with curiosity, finally broke the silence. RIMURU, I've been wondering, how are you so good at managing a nation? It's almost unnatural. RIMURU blinked, tilting his head playfully. I don't know. Maybe because I have good citizens. Hinata frowned, crossing her arms. That's not an answer. I don't have an answer anyway, RIMURU replied with a cheeky grin, causing Irina to giggle. Big Brother is a super cool king. Irina chimed in, her eyes shining with admiration. Kumara, still clinging to RIMURU's arm, whispered, besides, I think Big Brother is good at everything. Benimaru chuckled, shaking his head. Well, it's hard to deny that. Soe remained silent, but his slight nod showed his agreement. The beastmen exchanged glances, quietly acknowledging RIMURU's capability. Luminous, on the other hand, narrowed her eyes playfully. Oh, good at everything, you say. I wonder just how good. Her voice dripped with seduction, her gaze lingering on RIMURU. RIMURU, feigning innocence, merely laughed. Who knows? Maybe you should find out yourself. The Saints, however, had mixed reactions. Some were impressed by how much faith RIMURU's people had in him, while others still held skepticism toward RIMURU. Then, as if casually dropping a bomb, RIMURU added, by the way, this is just a clone. Silence. Everyone, except for Irina, Kumara, Benimaru, and Soe, froze in place, their expressions a mix of disbelief and shock. Wah! Luminous's eyes widened. A clone. Hinata clenched her fists, her aura flaring slightly. You came to duel me as just a clone. RIMURU sighed, rubbing the back of his head. Well. Before he could explain, Irina beamed, her voice filled with mischief. Yup. Why would Big Brother come all the way here just to fight someone weaker than him? The Saints bristled, their pride flaring instantly. Watch your mouth, girl. Leonard growled. Lady Hinata is one of the strongest in this world. Bacchus added, stepping forward. You're disrespecting her. Lytus glared, his aura rising. Irina, unfazed, merely pouted. But it's true. Kumara, feeling the rising tension, pressed herself against RIMURU, hiding behind his arm. Irina, you shouldn't tease them so much. Hinata exhaled deeply, reining in her temper. Let's just move forward. We're wasting time. The journey continued, and as they approached Tempest, the atmosphere shifted once more. The grand castle of Tempest loomed in the distance, its architecture beyond anything seen in Ruburios. The Saints stopped, their eyes wide in awe. This is Demon Lord RIMURU's castle. Fritz murmured. It's 100 times better than anything in Ruburios, Armud admitted. Luminous's gaze softened as she admired the sight. Not bad, it suits you, RIMURU. Hinata, though impressed, merely scoffed. So this is the power of a nation built by a monster, huh? They finally reached the entrance, only to be greeted by a familiar figure. Beldora stood tall, arms crossed, looking somewhat impatient. RIMURU. Where did you go? You said you'd bring me to that duel. RIMURU sighed heavily. No, I didn't. Hinata, glancing at the dragon, frowned. Who is he? Before RIMURU could answer, Irina cheerfully blurted out, that's Big Brother Beldora. Beldora grinned, placing his hands on his hips. Indeed. I am the almighty storm dragon, Beldora Tempest. Then, his gaze landed on Luminous, and a spark of recognition flashed across his face. Wait, I remember you. You're that female demon lord whose nation I accidentally destroyed. What was your name again? Steve. No, Smith. Labus. Luminous twitched. You overgrown lizard. Without warning, she lunged at Beldora. The saints stepped back as a fierce battle erupted between the two, though in truth, it was less of a fight and more of Luminous punishing Beldora for his past mistakes. Her blows rained down mercilessly, her magic forcing the mighty dragon onto the defensive. Meanwhile, the saints, except for Hinata, exchanged uneasy glances. So, our goddess, is actually a demon lord. I don't know how to process this. Can we still trust her? Leonard, after a long pause, finally spoke. As long as Lady Hinata believes in her, then I shall believe as well. The others nodded in agreement. As the sun began to set, Luminous finally relented, releasing a battered Beldora. Rimuru, watching with amusement, sighed. Hey, Beldora, I'll give you some new manga if you and Ramirez hurry up and finish that labyrinth. The moment those words left his mouth, Beldora shot up as if completely uninjured. I'm on it, Rimuru. You don't have to worry. He then bolted toward Ramirez's half-built labyrinth. Rimuru shook his head. That guy. Irina giggled. Big brother Beldora is even more childish than me. Kumara nodded shyly. More childish than me, too. Rimuru chuckled. Alright, let's head inside. With that, the group finally entered Tempest Castle. As the group walked through the grand hallways of Tempest's castle, the atmosphere was a mix of curiosity and admiration. The polished marble floors gleamed under the golden chandeliers, reflecting the intricate carvings on the walls. Tapestries of various designs decorated the corridors, depicting battles, celebrations, and even comical moments of the nation's history. The architecture alone spoke volumes about how much effort had been poured into making this place a paradise. Irina and Kumara clung to Rimuru's arms, humming a cheerful tune as they swayed side to side. Their excitement was evident, and Rimuru simply let them have their fun, a fond smile playing on his lips. Walking behind them, Luminous observed everything carefully before directing her attention to Rimuru. So, where exactly are you leading us? She asked, her voice smooth with a teasing undertone. To the throne room, Rimuru's clone replied nonchalantly. Luminous narrowed her eyes slightly. You really brought a clone to battle Hinata. Hinata shot a glare at Rimuru, crossing her arms. That's still bothering me. Come on, it's not that deep, Rimuru said, waving off their concerns. Besides, you didn't even notice until I told you, right? Hinata clicked her tongue in annoyance, but before she could argue further, they arrived at the throne room's grand entrance. The doors were enormous, crafted from dark oak, reinforced with golden patterns resembling a true dragon's form, and embedded with magic stones that radiated an aura of supreme authority. The moment Rimuru placed his hand on the door, it swung open smoothly. But before anyone could step inside, Rimuru's body vanished into thin air. Irina and Kumara barely reacted, giggling to themselves before dashing inside. Big brother's already inside. Irina cheered. Luminous, Hinata, and the saints, on the other hand, hesitated. Quote. What? Luminous muttered, slightly caught off guard. Did he just disappear? Leonard asked in disbelief. Don't tell me, Bacchus whispered. The group entered cautiously, only to stop in their tracks at the sight before them. At the far end of the massive chamber, atop a luxurious throne adorned with intricate designs, sat Rimuru. His eyes were closed, one leg crossed over the other, his expression peaceful yet commanding. Behind him stood his fiancés, their presence exuding both beauty and authority. The moment Irina and Kumara saw him, they rushed forward excitedly, stopping right in front of him. Big brother, we're back in Tempest. Irina declared cheerfully. Kumara nodded shyly. We came back. Rimuru slowly opened his eyes, a warm, doting smile forming as he reached out and patted their heads. Welcome back, you two, he said, his voice soft and affectionate. Irina purred in delight while Kumara blushed, leaning slightly into his touch. The fiancés behind Rimuru merely watched, unfazed by his favoritism toward his little sisters. Rimuru then turned his attention to Luminous, Hinata, and the saints, resting his cheek against his knuckles. So, what do you think of Tempest? Luminous was the first to respond, her eyes studying the grand throne room before locking onto Rimuru with intrigue. I must admit, it's far more impressive than I expected, she said, tilting her head slightly. You really are full of surprises, Rimuru. Hinata crossed her arms, clicking her tongue. I think it's too much, she said flatly, though her eyes betrayed her amazement. The saints, however, were at a complete loss for words. I have nothing to say, Leonard muttered. This is beyond expectations, Lytus admitted. I don't think I've seen anything like this in my life, Bacchus added. Hinata suddenly turned her gaze toward one of the figures standing behind Rimuru. Her eyes widened in shock. Sensei, you're alive. Before Shizu could respond, Rimuru raised a hand. Shish, he shushed dramatically. This is a demon lord's throne room. Speak respectfully. Hinata twitched in irritation. And what if I have no respect for you? She shot back. Rimuru's smile widened mischievously. Then you don't have permission to talk to my fiancés. Hinata's brows furrowed. I wasn't talking to your fiancés. You just did, Rimuru countered, his voice dripping with amusement. Hinata froze, realization dawning upon her as she glanced at Shizu again. Wait, don't tell me. Shizu let out a soft chuckle before nodding. Yes, I'm going to marry him very soon. In fact, we all are, Shuna added, gesturing to the other fiancés. Hinata's jaw dropped. The saints, too, were completely taken aback. He has more than 5 fiancés. Armud stuttered. Luminous let out an amused hum. Oh, you're only just realizing now. Rimuru smirked. Actually, I only have one wife right now. The rest are fiancés, but soon, that will change. Hinata clenched her fists, her face burning in frustration. You womanizer. Luminous, expression darkened slightly, and she sighed. That's enough, Hinata. Hinata groaned but took a step back, still glaring at Rimuru. Rimuru chuckled and stood up from his throne, stretching slightly. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about, he said. Let's head somewhere we can discuss things more peacefully. With that, he turned, his sisters still clinging to his arms. His fiancés followed behind gracefully, while Luminous and Hinata trailed after them, the saints hesitating slightly before following as well. As they walked, Luminous glanced at Rimuru, her eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and affection. You know, Rimuru, she purred, it's almost unfair how easily you attract women. If you're not careful, I might just steal you away for myself. Rimuru glanced at her with a smirk, his voice dripping with playfulness. Oh, are you sure you're not already falling for me, Luminous? Luminous chuckled, her crimson eyes glinting mischievously. Perhaps I already have. Irina giggled. Big brother is so cool. Even Luminous likes him. Kumara, blushing, clung tighter to Rimuru's arm. Big brother is good at everything. Rimuru only chuckled, stroking both their heads again. Of course. I am the best big brother, after all. Luminous sighed dramatically. Honestly, it's unfair how cute you can be when you spoil them like that. Rimuru shrugged. It's a big brother's duty to spoil his little sisters. Hinata let out an exhausted sigh. This entire place is ridiculous. And with that, the group made their way further into the castle, ready to begin their discussion. Meanwhile, the Roso family mansion stood in a secluded part of the Holy Empire of Lubelius, hidden within a web of political influence and wealth. Unlike the grand, lavish estates of noble families, this mansion was designed with secrecy in mind, its structure imposing yet devoid of unnecessary luxury, a fortress where plots and schemes were woven in the darkness. Deep within its halls lay a hidden chamber, a dimly lit room untouched by daylight. The air was thick with the scent of old parchment and burning incense, the only illumination coming from a single candle placed at the center of an obsidian table. Shadows flickered against the cold stone walls, amplifying the oppressive atmosphere. Seated at the table were 3 figures, Grand Bel Roso, the patriarch of the Roso family, his calculating eyes glinting beneath the faint light, Maria Bel Roso, his granddaughter, dressed elegantly in a crimson dress that contrasted with her pale skin, a knowing smirk playing on her lips, and Damrata, the merchant of the Cerberus organization, leaning back in his chair with a composed yet unreadable expression. A moment of silence filled the room before Grandbel finally spoke. His voice, though calm, carried the weight of bitter disappointment. It seems our plan has failed. Damrata exhaled through his nose, his expression unchanging. That demon lord is more cunning than we expected. Grandbel narrowed his eyes. It's not just that, his demons and subordinates are far more powerful than we initially calculated. Damrata closed his eyes briefly, sighing before shaking his head. How unfortunate. The great Grandbel Roso, head of the Roso family, unable to eliminate a single demon lord, he opened his eyes again, his golden pupils glinting with amusement. But I suppose I can't blame you. I'm in the same predicament. He pushed his chair back and stood up, adjusting his coat. It's about time I returned to the Eastern Empire. Grandbel's gaze followed him carefully. So, does this mean our deal is over? Damrata turned slightly, a smirk forming at the corner of his lips. Of course not. He placed a hand inside his coat pocket before continuing, our agreement remains. I'm merely stepping away for now. In my absence, I'll send someone to take my place. Grand Bel's expression darkened. This better not be one of your tricks, Damrata. Damrata chuckled softly, his voice carrying an air of confidence. I wouldn't dream of deceiving you, Grand Bel. That wouldn't be good for business. As he approached the door, he paused momentarily, turning back slightly. I wish you luck, Grand Bel. Grand Bel remained silent for a moment before responding. I'll say the same to you. Before leaving, Damrata reached out and lightly patted Mariabel's head. She didn't flinch but merely watched him with her usual sly smile, saying nothing as he exited the room. After Damrata's departure, Mariabel slowly walked toward her grandfather, her heels clicking softly against the cold stone floor. Stopping beside his chair, she tilted her head slightly. Can we really trust that man? Grand Bel let out a dry chuckle. Absolutely not. He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. But we can use him. As long as he remains useful to our cause and our wealth continues to grow, his presence benefits us. Mariabel placed a delicate hand on her chin, deep in thought. For now, though, our greatest illusion is Demon Lord RIMURU Tempest. We must do something about him and his growing nation. Her grandfather's eyes darkened. Be careful, my dear. That Demon Lord isn't like any other. Mariabel chuckled, her crimson eyes gleaming with malice. Don't worry, grandfather. I'll personally deal with him. Her voice turned sharper, her lips curling into a smirk. I'll show him what happens when he dares stand in the way of the Roso family. She turned away from her grandfather, her eyes gleaming with ambition as she whispered with unwavering conviction. I swear upon my name, Mariabel Roso the Greed. Back in Tempest. Tempest's grand meeting hall was filled with tension and curiosity as the assembled individuals took their seats. At the head of the table, RIMURU sat lazily, a mischievous smile tugging at his lips as he glanced at his fiancés. Surrounding him were Shizu, Xian, Shuna, Tis, Kagali, Goblina, Gabwa, Soka Velzard, and Rain, with Velzard's maids, Misery and Misery, standing behind them. On the other side of the room sat Luminous, Hinata, and the Saints, their expressions ranging from composed to deeply intrigued. Luminous crossed her arms, her crimson eyes narrowing slightly as she glanced toward Hinata. So, how exactly do you and Rimuru's fiancé know each other? Hinata leaned back and exhaled. She's my sensei. Luminous sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. I see. Rimuru clapped his hands together. Well, putting that aside, let's get to the real discussion. If things continue as they are, a war between Tempest and Ruberios is inevitable. Luminous nodded. Agreed. But more importantly, the world already knows about your duel with Hinata. What exactly do you plan on telling them? Rimuru shrugged playfully. Why not just say that Hinata and I fought equally? Before Hinata could protest, Irina and Kumara both pouted, their dissatisfaction clear. That's just ridiculous. Irina complained. Big brother, you wiped the floor with her. Kumara, despite her usual shyness, nodded in agreement. That would just make you look like a fraud, not a demon lord. Hinata smirked. For once, I agree with them. You're the leader of the demon lords. Lying about an even match would just make you look pathetic. Shizu and Velzard, however, shared a knowing glance before speaking. We have a better solution, Shizu said calmly. Luminous raised an eyebrow. And what might that be? Why not reveal my relationship with Hinata? Shizu suggested. Velzard nodded. That way, the people of Ruberios will have an actual reason to trust Tempest. Luminous leaned back in her chair, considering their words before sighing. I see your point, but even then, Ruberios won't form an official alliance with Tempest. Rimuru blinked, tilting his head. And why's that? Luminous, expression remained unreadable. I have my reasons. Kagali smirked. Then we could always spread a little rumor that Luminous tried to invade Tempest just to slaughter innocent people. Right. Rain chimed in with a teasing tone. And we could say even more about you and Ruberios, Luminous-sama. Luminous clicked her tongue in annoyance. Tisk. Your fiancés are a pain in my neck. Rimuru chuckled. Looks like I don't even need to say anything. They're handling everything for me. Hinata sighed. Lady Luminous, what about a temporary truce? Luminous closed her eyes, considering it for a moment before responding. I suppose I can agree to that. She exhaled deeply. 10 years. Since Rubrios was the one who caused the trouble, that should be fair. Rimuru's eyes narrowed slightly. That's odd. In my previous timeline, Luminous proposed a 100-year truce. Why the sudden change? At that moment, his informational skill Infomer spoke directly in his mind. Notice. A peculiar emotional fluctuation has been detected within Luminous Valentine. Carrot. Rimuru internally frowned. Emotional fluctuation. Is she angry that I haven't fulfilled my promise to her? Answer. The cause is unknown. Carrot. Sighing, Rimuru decided to let it slide for now. Fine, I accept. Before he could continue, Luminous suddenly cut him off. Actually, I'll make that permanent, on 2 conditions. Rimuru tilted his head. And what might those be? Luminous held up one finger. First, I want Tempest's assistance in advancing Rubrios. Hinata immediately frowned. Lady Luminous, what about the angel invasion? If Rubrios advances like Tempest, won't that make it a target as well? The room fell silent as confusion spread across the faces of everyone except Rimuru, Belzard, Rain, and Misery. Benimaru, Irina, Kumara, Shizu, Shion, Shuna, Tis, Kagali, Myorn, Soka, and the saints all looked completely lost. What's this about an angel invasion? Benimaru asked. Irina and Kumara also tilted their heads. Yeah, what's that supposed to mean? Hinata opened her mouth to explain, but Rimuru spoke first. It's a 500-year cycle. Everyone turned to him in shock. Hinata and Luminous both stared at him. How do you know that? Rimuru casually leaned back. Let's just say I have my own way of getting information. His fiancés beamed at him with admiration. Fufufu, as expected of my beloved, Shizu teased. Shion grinned. Lord Rimuru really is the best. Shuna clasped her hands together. To know something even Luminous and Hinata didn't. Tis chuckled. That's why we love him. Kagali smirked. The man always surprises us. Goblina and Gobwa both giggled. Big brother Rimuru is the best. Belzard merely smirked, while Rain giggled in amusement. Irina, looking up at Rimuru with shining eyes, said, even if the angels attack us, our angels can take them on, right, big brother? Rimuru nodded. Of course. Hinata and Luminous exchanged another shocked glance. What do you mean, your angels? Hinata asked. Kumara innocently answered, Big brother has angels too. The entire room went silent. Everyone, except for Rimuru's fiancés and sisters, looked utterly horrified. Benimaru's mouth twitched. What? Soe blinked. Did I hear that correctly? Luminous, expression darkened. You have angels under your command. Rimuru waved off their concern. Yeah, don't worry about it. Let's move on. Luminous narrowed her eyes but let it go for now. Fine. Now, my second condition. Meanwhile, Rimuru's fiancés, sensing something ominous, exchanged nervous glances. Shizu whispered, I have a bad feeling about this. Belzard nodded. I do too. Rain sighed. This can't be good. Luminous then spoke with absolute seriousness. You must take me as one of your fiancés as well. Silence. Rimuru, Irina, and Kumara were completely shocked. Irina's jaw dropped. What? Kumara hid behind Rimuru. Lady Luminous. Rimuru coughed. Wait, what? His fiancés all turned toward Luminous, their expressions ranging from disbelief to irritation. Shizu smirked. Oh my, how bold. Shion pouted. Another rival. Shuna's eyes darkened. I won't accept this easily. Tis chuckled. Interesting. Kagali sighed. I knew something was up. Belzard and Rain both glanced at each other before looking at Rimuru with teasing smirks. Hinata, meanwhile, was glaring daggers at Luminous. You can't be serious. The saints were in complete shock, not knowing how to process what they had just heard. Benimaru and Soe, however, were even more stunned. Benimaru rubbed his temples. What is happening? Soe shook his head. I feel like I should be used to this by now, but I'm not. Luminous, a faint blush on her cheeks, crossed her arms. So, what's your answer, Demon Lord Rimuru? Rimuru, still reeling from the shock, could only sigh. This meeting just took a turn I wasn't expecting. The moment Luminous words settled into the room, the atmosphere turned heavy. Rimuru's fiancés all turned toward him with piercing gazes, their expressions ranging from irritation to pure exasperation. Another one. Shion crossed her arms, pouting. Seriously, Lord Rimuru. Shuna's sweet smile twitched. How many more women do you plan on seducing without realizing it? Tis smirked playfully. I expected this sooner or later, but still. Kaguli sighed. I should have placed a bet on this happening. Belzard chuckled but kept a teasing smirk. So, Rimuru, how are you going to handle this? Rain leaned closer, resting her head on her hand. You do realize you're making our future much more complicated, right? Goblina and Gobwa pouted in sync. You're too charming for your own good. Myorn shook her head, sighing. At this rate, he'll have the entire world falling for him. Even Soka had her arms crossed, though she wasn't as aggressive. Maybe you should reflect a little. Rimuru opened his mouth, only for Hinata to step forward, her arms folded and her glare sharp. You know, Rimuru, I expected nonsense from you, but this is beyond ridiculous. How can you not notice when you're seducing someone? Luminous, despite being the cause of this, looked away, her cheeks slightly pink. Well, he does have an unusual charm. Hinata scowled. Don't defend him, you just joined the problem. As the argument continued, Rimuru internally sighed before whispering to his sisters. Man, when they're mad, they're scary. Kumara nodded quickly. Why yeah, big sisters are terrifying. Irina crossed her arms. I finally understand how Big Brother Beldora felt now. Kumara tilted her head. But isn't it wrong for us to say that? Someday, we're going to be like them, you know, married to someone. Irina visibly froze. Wait, hold on. Kumara giggled. It's true, right? We'll also. Rimuru suddenly shouted, over my dead body. Silence. Every single person in the room turned to Rimuru, confusion clear on their faces. Hinata blinked. What? Shizu raised an eyebrow. Rimuru. Even Luminous tilted her head. What was that just now? Rimuru coughed awkwardly. Sorry about that. I was talking to my sisters. Don't mind it. His fiancés sighed, finally focusing back on the main issue. Luminous exhaled deeply. So, what's your answer? Will you accept me or not? Rimuru scratched his cheek, debating his response. Luminous leaned forward slightly. Besides, you have a promise to fulfill, remember? Rimuru groaned internally. Why is it always me? Suddenly, a voice echoed in his mind. Because you're the main character of this story. Rimuru froze. Wait a minute. The voice chuckled. That's right, it's me. The author. Rimuru's face twisted. Ah, you again. Who else? You keep complaining, so I figured I'd remind you of your role. Why do I have to deal with all of this? Because it's funny. That's not a good reason. Too bad. Anyway, I'm leaving now. All responsibilities are yours. Rimuru tried to protest, but the presence disappeared from his mind. He sighed loudly before mumbling, please, Seal, come quickly. Turning back to the others, he reluctantly said, fine, I'll accept it. His fiancés all looked at him expectantly. However, Rimuru quickly added, I'll also establish a church in Tempest. The women exchanged glances before finally nodding. Shizu smiled. That's fair. Xian pouted but agreed. Fine, but no more sudden additions. Shuna sighed. We'll allow it. Tis chuckled. Welcome to the group, Luminous. Luminous, for her part, seemed slightly overwhelmed but nodded. I appreciate the welcome. Belzard smirked. Just don't fall behind. Rain giggled. Yeah, you've got a lot to learn. As the atmosphere settled, Shizu suddenly pointed at Rimuru. But try not to seduce any more women without realizing it. The others nodded in agreement. Rimuru blinked. How am I supposed to stop something I don't even realize I'm doing? Kaguli smirked. Figure it out. With that, the meeting finally came to an end. Later that night, the dining hall in Tempest was lively as Rimuru, his fiancés, Irina, Kumara, Hinata, Luminous, and the saints gathered to eat. Rimuru, Hinata, and Shizu, having come from Japan, were already familiar with the food, and his fiancés had long since gotten used to it. However, Luminous and the saints were completely lost. Luminous poked at her food. What is this? Hinata smirked. It's Japanese cuisine. You'll love it. Luminous eyed the food suspiciously before hesitantly taking a bite. Her eyes widened slightly. This is unexpectedly good. The saints, however, weren't as composed. One of them hesitantly picked up a piece of sushi. Raw fish. Another took a bite of wasabi and immediately started tearing up. This is spicy. Rimuru chuckled as his fiancés enjoyed the chaos. Xian, sitting next to Rimuru, leaned against him seductively. Lord Rimuru, shall I feed you? Shuna quickly pulled him away. No fair, Xian. I want to do it too. Tis smirked. Well, I am his fiancé too. Maybe I should do it. Belzard and Rain exchanged amused glances. Luminous, though new to the relationship, found herself enjoying the playful bickering. Hinata, however, wasn't. She scowled as she watched Rimuru surrounded by Shizu and Luminous. I really don't like this. Rimuru sighed. Why does this always happen? Irina and Kumara, meanwhile, were happily eating, spoiled as always. Suddenly, Shuna turned to Rimuru. By the way, you spoil them way too much. The others all nodded in agreement. Shion crossed her arms. You seriously pamper them too much, Lord Rimuru. Goblina and Gobwa pouted. We get it, they're your sisters, but still. Kumara blinked. But we're cute. Irina smirked. Yeah, and we're his adorable little sisters. He has to spoil us. Rimuru grinned. Exactly. The fiancés groaned in unison. Luminous chuckled. This is, surprisingly fun. Despite the chaos, everyone enjoyed the meal, the warmth of the moment making the previous tension feel like a distant memory. As the night continued, Rimuru couldn't help but sigh internally. At least tonight is peaceful, right?